Hey you guys, my name is Brianna, which means high, exalted, noble, and strong. Today I'm making a video about how people's demons that they're not trying to deal with try to control you because you're not a follower, because you're following God instead of trying to follow the devil or follow them. So let's get right into it. Alright, so we're gonna start out with my ex. Alright, so the person that I'm referring to when I say living with a demon is my ex. I totally 100% see it now, did not see it then. So for when we first started out, I didn't notice, but this is exactly what happened, especially within the spiritual realm, because I was not spiritually, I didn't have the spiritual knowledge that I have now. I wasn't spiritually wise, so I didn't know why it was going on, but this is exactly like what went on in the beginning of our relationship. First of all, he did witchcraft on me by telling me he loved me like a few days in the, what is it called, the loving phase, or the, I'll put the word here, but the phase that they do when they first want to get you in. You're like, oh my gosh, this person's in love with me already. They really like me for who I am and things like that, which turns out in the future when I call him talking to another girl, the other girl he was cheating on me with, he did the exact same layout of exactly how he talked to me to her. So I am completely aware that he is knowledgeable about what he's doing to these people and how he wants to basically trick them into falling for them. So that's what he did to me, did that puppy dog thing, and then after like a short amount of time he turned. So when he turned, this is what he started to do. He started to monitor me, wanted to control everything I was doing, like things like when he would be at work, because he works a lot, he would either get his sister to monitor what I was doing or try to get me to tell him exactly what I would be doing in that day, and give me lists of things that he wanted me to do so he can know exactly what I was doing. So that's how he would try to control me. Then I'm gonna do a whole series on him, so that's just like a little bit of what happened with us. And then so fast forward to now, it's like towards the end of our relationship, I started like seeing everything after I realized that he was a narcissist. Started opening up my spiritual ability to see within the spiritual realm or whatever. I noticed exactly what he was moving, exactly how he was doing, exactly why he was doing it. And so like every time I would like, we would have encounters like that, because it would go like in a circle. Like he would do the loving thing again, then after the loving thing he would do the controlling thing. It was like a cycle, and that's how he would try to trick me into falling back for him. And so towards the end of the relationship, and I was seeing all this, I'm just like, boom, 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 I see what you're doing, exactly what you're doing, and I see why God put me through that. So because it was able to wake me up, and I was able to see that I'm actually dealing with a demon. They're never going to change, they're never going to really love you. It's just how they are, how they move. They just try to trick people into loving them without changing. I pray that he changes in the future, but that's the way that person is. And the longer that I'm with him, all he's going to try to do is control me into loving him. That's it. So I'll get more into depth when I go through that series, but as of right now, that's all I got for y'all on that. Moving forward to my next example, living with my mother. So I went 3 years without living with my mother. I was living, when I lived with my mother, I was under her control for my entire life without knowing it. My mother is narcissistic as well. I'm not going to bash her or anything like that, because that's not honoring your mother, but I am going to tell the truth for the people who need to realize what's going on with their possible narcissistic mother relationships. But with her, I was controlled to love her and put her on a pedestal my entire life. And so after our last time living together, I started to realize in my head, like, I don't like the relationship that I have with her, and we rarely ever talked. And if we ever talked, it was like kind of her like reaching out to get her children back under control, but if we didn't get back under control, she was gone again. So the last time I ever lived with her was when I was about to go to my first training, and when I was about to go to my first training, and when I failed and came back, that's the last time I've lived with her. And when I got back, when I lived with her, it started out with she didn't, you could tell it was evident that she didn't want me there because I was too into following my own way and following God and figuring it out. And so when I got there, they basically made it be known that they didn't want me there. And my sisters did it, but you could tell it was trickled down from her. Like, she was at the top and she was basically controlling my sisters to make me well aware that they didn't want me there. And so that was like the beginning. Then it turned into her trying to play this role that she always played in our lives, where she would talk about what she's been through in her personal life and why she has the need to want to control us, and she only wants to control us so much because she worries about us. But as I'm looking at her do that, she did so many times over there. Every time I confronted her about a boundary or something that I didn't like, she went right into the role of, I've been through this in my life and all this, trying to play on my heart. And so when she noticed that didn't work, when she noticed that she couldn't control me, and she noticed that I seen exactly what she was doing, it went back to the meme. So I was just like, okay, noted. All right, I'm not going to be able to live here. And she even made it like well known that I was not going to be able to live there because I wasn't going to keep that mindset or allow her to make my mindset a certain way. So I left there fairly pretty quickly. All right, so my last example is going to be a flight as an example, of course, because I get nothing but examples from this field. But this happened recently. This happened the other day. I was deadheading. And so if you don't know what deadheading is, deadheading means basically you get paid to do a flight to go somewhere to either work a flight or get back to base. And so on this one, I was getting paid to go somewhere to work a flight in New Jersey. And so first, I had just gotten off a flight. And when I got off that flight, I had to go to another gate to get on that flight to go deadhead somewhere. And so I'm on this flight. I get to the gate agents. And so the gate agent, she's the first one to try me this day for whatever reason, I don't know. So usually when you get to the gate, they know that you got to get one of the seats first because you're getting paid by the airlines and they need you somewhere. So they need you to work. So you're very important. So they need you to get your seats. They have your seat already, and they want to get you on a plane first because we have a lot of luggage, and they don't want it to not be room for our luggage either. So I get there, I greet the gate agent, and I'm like, hey, I'm deadheading. I need a ticket and things like that. She's like, all right, wait right here for me. What she did is try to act like she was my friend and like act like she was being nice. But then when I noticed she was moving differently, she was checking all the people in, like all the people who didn't have a ticket yet. She was checking all them in before giving me my ticket. And so I'm sitting there for the first like 10-15 minutes like, okay, this is weird, but maybe this is just how they move in Nashville. I don't know. But I'm sitting there waiting, and then so finally I'm like, do they have a seat for me? Because that's what it's looking for. Like, you're giving all the good seats up for whatever reason. That's not what y'all usually do. Y'all usually give us good seats because y'all know we work for the establishment, and y'all hurry up and get us on the plane because y'all don't want no issues with that. What are you doing? And so she even told her manager that I had already had a seat. So I'm like, why haven't you printed my ticket? Why are you printing other people's tickets and you haven't printed my ticket? And so she keeps starting a little conversation with me that I don't care about. And I'm just like acting like she's my friend, but I'm just like, you're acting like you're friendly, but you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. This should have already been done. And so when her manager comes back, I'm like, so do they not already have a seat for me? What's going on? And so she was like, oh yeah, I got your seat right here. Let me print it out. I'm like, yeah, print it out. Like, go do what you're doing in front of your manager. You know you're not supposed to be doing this. So she prints out my ticket, and then her manager's like, go check her in. And so she goes to check me in, and then she just starts waiting for people to check in. Like, not telling the other gate agent, like, here, check this in. She's just waiting there. And so I tell the manager, I'm like, hey, I gotta make sure my bags are gonna fit where I'm at. And so she like, I start walking towards her, and then right when I start walking towards her, she sees me and she hurries up and checks me in. And then I noticed she gave me one of the most horrible seats when there was a lot of free seats. And I'm like, okay, maybe this is just accidental. Maybe this is just how they move in Nashville. Cool. I'm going to go on about my business, and I'm going to just get another seat because that's what I do when I'm on these flights. The flight attendant's not going to tell me that I can't get another seat. So whatever. So I get on the flight. I go to another seat. And I go to a more comfortable seat that has nobody in it, one that I would usually get as a flight attendant. And so she gets on the flight, the gate agent gets on the flight. And so she talks to somebody, these people so rudely, and they had moved to a more comfortable seat. And she's like, "Did y'all move? Why would y'all move? That messes me up when I'm trying to give people seats. Do not do that." That's how she's talked to them people. And so I'm just sitting there, and I could tell that she was trying to make me hear it too, because she like looked at me where I was sitting as well. And I'm just like, "Girl, don't, this is outside your job description. I can move on a flight. I am working this flight." So I just look up, and then she goes back out and assigns some other people to the seats that I was sitting in. So I was like, all right. And then she gets back on the flight to make sure that I have to go back to my uncomfortable seat. And I'm like, all right. And I'm not gonna lie, I said under my breath, I'm so irritated right now. And one of the annoying flight attendants that was on this flight heard that, and made it like seem like, oh, she's problematic. No, y'all don't even understand what's all that's going on with this lady already that's been trying me. And so I go to some other seats, I find some more comfortable seats or whatever, and I sit down. And so the gate agent, when she comes back the last time to check where I'm sitting, she's talking to the flight attendants. I already know she's talking mess to them. And yeah. Oh shoot, I have to rewind. Let me rewind to me going onto the flight. So I finally get my ticket, and I'm going onto the flight. And when I get close to the doors, I see both of the flight attendants that stand to greet you when you first enter the plane. And so I see the lead, and she looks at me, she rolls her eyes and turns back around to where she couldn't see me. I was like, all right, cool, maybe we're not gonna talk, that's fine. I don't know what your deal is, I don't know what you're going through, that's your business, cool. And then the other flight attendant, he's standing right there, so he greets me. I'm like, hey guys, and he says hey back, and I just keep walking. And I go to my seat or whatever. And then I switch seats and do all that other stuff. And all that stuff happens with the gate agent in between that time. Then, while I'm in those seats, those new seats, the gate agent comes back, and she talks it up with the lead. And the lead, you could tell they're talking mess or whatever. And so I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. This is a simple deadhead. I should have no problems, no issues. Let me go on by my business. So I continue on with the flight, and as they're still boarding, the lead comes through the aisles, and she's like, seatbelt, 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 seatbelts. And here's the thing with that. We're supposed to tell people to put on their seatbelts. It's, a federal aviation regulation, but with everything that we're supposed to do, that's a regulation. We're supposed to tell people, inform people that, hey, this is a federal aviation regulation. You should be doing this, and I advise you do this. But there's no forcing anybody to do anything. Like, I know there's like flight attendants, like we're supposed to tell people they're not supposed to go to the restroom at a certain time, but we can't force people not to go. Who is trying to force somebody not to go to the restroom? That's something that's natural. Like, some people really be trying not to let people go to the restroom. I'll just be like, you're just doing too much. Like, tell them it's dangerous. I'd be like, hey, you're going at your own risk. It's up to you. But some people get nervous. Sometimes people been waiting at the gate because they don't want to miss their flight. That's their business. Tell them it's not safe, but let them go to the restroom. Things like that. So as the same thing goes for the seatbelt. Hey, it's for your safety, put on your seatbelt, but I ain't gonna be sitting here trying to buckle it for you and things like that. So she walks through, and she's like, seatbelts, seatbelts, seatbelts. And so I'm just sitting there minding my business. And so when she stops at me, picks my seatbelt up, and hands it to me. And like implied, like gives me a look like, go ahead and do that. You hear me saying seatbelts. And I was just like, girl, don't you see the uniform? Or do you not see that I don't know? I'm basically working the flight. You don't think I know? Like, so I grabbed a seatbelt, I put it on my thigh. I'm like, because I put my seatbelt on at a certain time every time I get on a flight, and that's my business. And so she comes back, she double checks to see if I got my seatbelt on, keeps walking to the front. Then she tells the gate agent again that I'm a problem. Then she talks to the other flight attendant that's up there, saying that there's an issue with that, with me not putting my seatbelt on. So then when they're doing their safety demonstration, the other flight attendant that was up there with them walks to do his demonstration. He walks past me, taps me on my head, and tells me to put my seatbelt on. So I just kept my own business, stayed on my phone because I was texting, and ignored it. So when he walks back from the safety demonstration, he taps me on my shoulder and says, put your seatbelt on. Why haven't you put your seatbelt on? I was like, I'm a flight attendant. I know when to put my seatbelt on. And he's like, well, why you haven't put it on? I was like, I know when to put my seatbelt on and how to put my seatbelt on. So he walks away like I'm a problem and goes to talk to the lead again. And they have this conversation like I'm a problem, thing, all these things like this. No, y'all are the problem. What is y'all's deal? And so, that was that with the flight. There was other little annoying things that they did the entire flight because they just wanted to make me be marked as this issue, this problem, the entire flight. They made such a big deal over something that small because they couldn't control me. That's what it was. And so, at the end of the flight, they all lined up. It was the lead, the guy that was in the front with the lead, and one of the flight attendants that was in the back. They all lined up, all tapped me on my shoulder as they walked past me to the front and told me to put on my seatbelt. Then the guy that's supposed to be in the back of the plane walked back, came back, took a picture of me, then walked back and tapped me again and said, put on my seatbelt. Then they all came through and made sure that I had my seatbelt on. And then, so if we want to apply the regulations, so the pilot always tells people to sit down in a certain seat, tells the flight attendants to sit down, be seated for landing. And that's when I was putting on my seatbelt because that's when I usually do it or whatever. But that's when the flight attendants are required to sit down and put their seatbelt on as well. And so when he did that, when he said flight attendants be seated for landing, they're all still roaming around checking to see if I got my seatbelt on. And so the lead comes up to me and she's like, yeah, I took a picture of them because they were still standing when after he said that. And she was like, you took a picture of me? And I was like, nah. But and I was just like, she was like, well, he just told you to put your seatbelt on. And I was like, nah, because he also said be seating for landing. And if y'all want to try to be acting like y'all are so serious about the protocols, why are y'all still standing up? And so she started walking around. She was like, she said be seated for landing. She said be seated for landing. I was like, no, the pilot said be seated for landing. But yet y'all are still up messing with me. And so they all sat down or whatever. And they were so mad because after they did, every time they would do something to me, I would just go back to being unbothered, acting like I was in my own little world. And they were all watching me, staring at me. I caught so many times them sitting around staring at me, checking me, doing all this extra over a seatbelt. Something that we're required to say, but something that's not something we would just let people be like anybody. And this is a whole flight attendant, and y'all are doing all this. And so I was just sitting there like, wow, these people seriously are psychotic and have some serious control issues. And there's a lot of flight attendants that treat the customers like that. Like, they get away with being so dirtily rude to people just so they can control them. Some people really do like controlling those people just because they have some little bit of authority. They just want to do the most to control those people. And it's like me, I'm here to inform you for your safety, but I'm not here to control you. I'm not your mama. But yeah, that was that flight. They talking about how they were going to report me. I reported them because that needed to be reported because that was ridiculous. And I ended up reporting them. Some things happened on the way to the airport and stuff like that, but it's not that important. But yeah, y'all, they are going. Us children of God, we are not followers. We kind of always been that way, but even more so that we know why we really always been that way, and the people see our light and they see that we follow God. They're really gonna try to control you, whether it's in a friendly way or it's just an out front rude way. And when you don't fall under that control, they do their best to attack you anyway, and attack you in some serious, like, any way, and they'll go to the extremes to attack you, basically. But yeah, don't fall for it, even if it's like something serious, even if it makes you lose your job or anything like that, because that's a lot of times what they try to do to me, try to attack my job. But only God has control over everything. So if you lose your job, it's just because he wants to lead you into another direction. They have no control over that. The devil has no control over your experiences and what you're allowed and what you get and what you don't get. Only God has control over that. So if something is taken away from you, that's only God leading you into another direction for you. So yeah, that's all I have to say on this topic. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.